Hey guys, this is Anthony Morganti. I am MrPhotographer.com. Over the past couple years, Adobe has really improved the ability to make selections in Photoshop. Specifically, the ability to select the object of a photo. The reason why you may want to select the object of a photo is because you want to clip it out of that photo and put it into another photo. Now in this video, we're going to go through a number of different images selecting the object of the photo. And the object in every image will be a person, because quite often we're doing compositing where we're taking a person from one photo and putting them in another. Now we're going to start out with a very easy image, which is relatively easy to select the person or object. And we're going to go through some other images that have some difficulties with them when we do a selection. And I'll go through these different images showing different tools and techniques that you could use to get a good selection of an object or a person in a photo. Now let's start out with this easiest one. It's easy because the person is in front of a single color, evenly lit background. In this case, it's seamless paper. It's all one color. It's pretty evenly lit. So it's one of the easier situations you'll encounter. Now what you want to do is get a selection tool. Hit the W key on your keyboard. When you do that, you'll get one of three different selection tools. You may have two tools here. Some Photoshops don't have the object selection tool here. You could add that in preferences, but you'll have one of these tools. It doesn't matter which one you have active. I happen to have the quick selection tool active. And the reason why, though, it doesn't matter is because when any of those tools are active, you'll have two buttons at the top, select subject and select and mask. What you're going to want to do is start out with select subject. And when you click on that, Photoshop will look at the image and do its best to select the subject. And you can see it did a pretty good job. It didn't select properly maybe under each of his arms and maybe between his fingers a little bit. But that's where the second button comes into play, select and mask. When we click on that, you'll see then in more kind of a graphical representation, we could see where our selection is failing us. Because in this select and mask dialog, I have it set so the view is on black. So you could see that we're not selected well under his arms, between his fingers, maybe a little bit around his hair. And we have a number of tools on the left, number of sliders on the right that will help us refine this selection. Now, the tool you'll probably use the most is the second brush from the top. This is the Refine Edge brush. With this brush, you just brush around an edge. And wherever you brush, you're telling Photoshop, look at this area again and see if you could get a better selection. So let's try it. We'll go get a smaller brush, hit the left bracket key, right bracket key makes it larger. Happen to be using the plus brush, but that'll work. Just go under here and bam, got a better selection. Now we'll go under here and got a better selection. All right, we'll get a smaller brush again and we'll come between his pinky and ring finger and see if we can improve that. And we did. And we'll come over here, see if we could improve between his pointer and middle finger. And we kind of did. We'll go again. You could keep doing it a few times. See if you could improve it. And I think actually after a few brush strokes, it looks pretty good. We'll go over here and improve the selection there. And we did. Under his arm looks a little funky here. So what we'll do is we'll get a little bit of a larger brush. And we'll just kind of brush along this edge. See if we could help that arm. All right, I think we did that pretty well. Now his hair. There is a button for refine hair, but what I found is that it doesn't always work. As a matter of fact, I found it doesn't work more often than it does work. So a lot of times I don't even bother with it. Now I will show you refine hair on another image, but on this image, let's stay with our refine edge brush. And you can see that we have a little bit of an issue around here. So we'll get in here and get in a little better. Now, what a lot of people want to do is they want to try to capture and single out every single stray hair. You don't have to. It's just too much work. And it really isn't needed. So just come in here and get the best you can with the hair. Now what you can do, what sometimes helps, is if you go down over here on the bottom right, if you click on this little checkbox, decontaminate colors, sometimes when you click on that, it improves the selection around the hair, but sometimes it will make selections in other areas worse. So what you can do is be very careful. Click on it and really look very carefully at your image when you're clicking and see if it's messing up anywhere else. It does seem to improve his hair selection a bit, but it seems to be it doesn't, at least in this case, seem to be messing up anywhere else. So we'll leave that clicked. When you have that clicked, you have to output it to a new layer with layer mask. So that's fine. And we'll click OK. All right. So we're going to click OK. And you can see there's our selection. It did a fine job. We have them clipped out. Now, if you want to drag them into another image, you would hit the V key for the move tool and you could drag them around like that. And we'll show that in another image in a moment. So let's just move them over to the right a little bit. Okay. Now we'll go to another image. This one's just slightly more difficult because the background isn't evenly lit and she has a lot of kind of flyaway hair. You know, the curls are out into, you know, the background. A little more difficult. But again, we're going to get a selection tool by hitting the W key on the keyboard. Doesn't matter which one. We're going to go to select subject. You can see we got a selection. Now we'll go to select and mask. Now you can see our selection isn't really good. Now, most often I don't like to use this black background. I prefer to use the overlay background and make sure that opacity is at 100. And that, like, to me helps a little better with most images. On the last image, I had to use the black background because the original background was red. So with this, we're going to stay with our refine it. Well, I'll show you refine hair in a minute. Let's stay with the refine hair or the refine edge brush. I'm sorry. And we're just going to come in here and kind of just paint in these areas of her hair that aren't selected as well. Now, again, you don't really need to worry about getting every single strand of hair. And I would encourage you not even to try because usually it's impossible. And you're just going to mess up the selection in other spots. So just come in and get as much of the thicker parts as you can. Okay. And like that, maybe in there a little bit. No, it's really messed up her shoulder. I'll show you that in a moment. We'll come down here. And her knuckles a little bit. Let's see if we could improve that selection. I think we did. All right, now her shoulder. Let's zoom in a little bit. I'll hit Command plus on my keyboard twice. It's Control plus on a PC. Hold the space bar in to get the hand tool and drag over here. You can see how it really didn't do well over here. What we'll want to do here is we want to get the third tool from the top. This is just a brush. This has no intelligence to it. Wherever your brush, you're either adding to the selection or removing to the selection. So we're going to use a plus brush to add to the selection. And we'll get a bigger brush by hitting the right bracket key to make it larger. We'll make it real big to begin with. And we'll just come in and we're going to add all this to the selection because this is all shoulder, right? In here, I think it's pretty much all in here. Then I'll get a smaller brush. And remember now, wherever I'm painting, it's just adding. So it's not intelligent at all. So you kind of have to... Now you could pull opacity down to this so you could get a better look at where you're going with it. Like that. And put opacity back up. Then we have more of an edge there. We could get that refine edge brush and we could come in, get a smaller brush, hit the bracket key, and kind of refine that edge a little bit. See what that looks like. Kind of messed it up a little more. We'll go to that other brush and come in here and paint it back in. Go back to the refine edge brush. I'll fix her knuckles. Okay, come in here, get that a little better. It looks pretty good. We'll fit it to screen, hit Command 0 on a Mac, Control 0 on a PC, and that looks pretty good. Now, oh no it doesn't. Let's zoom in. I see another spot. Zoom in a couple times, hit Command plus, hold spacebar in, drag over in here. You can see down here. Here's an issue. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the regular brush. We're going to make sure that we're using the positive brush, and we'll come in here and fix this issue down here. And that isn't bad. Let's come in here and see if we could improve this a little bit. All right. I think that's all good. Yeah. Here, here. There we go. A little better. Okay, we'll zoom back out. I'll hit Command 0. Now I talked about refine hair, how sometimes it makes things worse. All right, let's go to refine hair and just click it once. And when I do that, it messed up her shoulder, maybe made her hair a little better, but it messed up down in here. So you need to undo this. There's no undo button. What you're going to have to do is hit the keyboard shortcut Command Z on a Mac. Control Z is in zebra to just undo your last step. You could do that anywhere in Photoshop, not just in this dialog. So we have it. So I'm going to just, we could look at decontaminate colors as well. It seemed to make her hair a little fuller. But it's kind of messing up the selection on her hand over here. So I'm not going to use that. I'm going to leave that off. We're just going to output it to a selection. I'll hit OK. We have a selection. Hit Command J. When you do that, or Control J on a PC, when you do that, you duplicate what is selected. Turn off the background layer, and there's our selection right there. So it looks pretty good. Want to move her to another image? Hit the V key for the Move tool. Click and drag her up to the other tab of the other image. Drop her on, and then position her. And you can see that they were just playing poker or something, and she won and he lost, and he's sad and she's happy. So that's compositing, you know, why you might want to do that. Now, where select object really works well, or, you know, select, you know, whatever works well in an image too, is if there is shallow depth of field, and what you want to select is in focus. This is a good example. So we'll get any selection tool again with the W key. We'll go up to Select Subject. Got our selection. We'll go to Select and Mask. And you can see it did pretty good. The edges look a little funky. So what I found sometimes when these edges look a little weird, go up to Feather first. Now don't go too crazy with Feather. If you move it, it just kind of ruins the selection. You just want to feather no more than 2 pixels usually. It depends on the resolution of the image. But around here, 1.5, just a tiny bit of feathering. And a little bit of smoothing. You really don't want smoothing to go much over 5. Then get the Refine Edge brush again. In this case, we'll get a larger brush by hitting the right bracket key. Make sure you're on plus, and just very quickly just brush along the edge of, in this case, her jacket. And just stop periodically so that Photoshop could do its thinking to get your better selection. Come in here. Go up in here. And down here. Like that. So leave it like that. Decontaminate color. See if that improves anything or makes it worse. Seems to have made it worse. We'll keep our regular selection. Click OK. Hit Command J to duplicate what is selected. Turn that off. And there's our selection. Now you could drop that into another image. Let's go to another one, a little more difficult. A little more busy of an image. Depth of field is good, but there is some other stuff that is in focus here and there. Again, any selection tool, hit the W key, go on Select Subject. Now you can see it selected the subject okay, but it did select some of the building back in here. Before we go to Select and Mask, what you could do is stay with a quick selection tool, and by default, you'll get the plus tool. And we want to remove this from the selection. So you could go up here and click the minus brush. But what I do is just hold the Alt or Option key. Alt if you have PC, Option if you have a Mac. When you hold that key in, you'll get a minus brush. And then you can remove the selection from there. And just maybe get a smaller brush. I'll zoom in a little. Hit Command plus a couple times. And you can see that it didn't do a good selection right here. So I want to remove the selection. Hold the Alt key, Option key in. Improve it there. Go down here. I think around the sneaker was a little messed up. Hold the Alt Option key in again. See if we could improve that. That. Now we want to add to the selection on the bottom of his sneaker right there. See if we could do that very carefully. All right. Part of his sneaker over here isn't selected. It looks pretty good. Part of his, I think that's his backpack sticking out there, but you know what? I'll just leave that cut off. It's all blurry anyway, and it doesn't look right. So we'll go now to Select and Mask. Before I do that, I'll zoom out. Command 0, Control 0 on the PC. Go to Select and Mask. And there's a little bit, it did okay. It's a little bit choppy though, and there's a little bit between his hands here it didn't get. So we'll go to the refine edge brush, get a small one, come in here, get that a little better. I think it over selected, so I'm going to get the other brush and just come in here like that. It looks a little better. It's got the handle here. We want to make sure that's selected. I'm going to hit Command 0 to fit to screen, and we'll go to smooth to smooth out that edge a little bit, feather it just a little bit. All right, we could go to that refine edge brush and kind of refine the edge around here and here. If you screw up like that, just hit Command Z to undo, Command Z twice to undo. Then I could get the other brush, and I'm going to get the minus brush by holding in the Alt key. Just come in here and just clip that away. Wherever it's kind of bothering me, it looks a little jagged, just clip it away. And that's pretty good. That's pretty good selection. We'll click OK, hit Command J, turn off that background layer, and he's clipped out. That's good enough to plop into another image. It will look fine. Now let's go to a more difficult image. We want to clip out the lady in the photo. Again, get any selection tool, hit the W key, go on Select Subject. We selected the subject. Now go to Select and Mask. And it's a pretty good selection overall, all the way around. Maybe your hair a little bit over in here. So what we could do is, again, we could go to the second tool from the top, the Refine Edge brush, and maybe just refine this edge just a little bit in there. She has stray hair here, but we could do is we'll fix that after we make the selection. But everything else looks pretty good overall. Maybe it did a bit up in there, just a little bit. Okay, again, you don't worry about every hair. I think we're okay. We'll again go to a selection, click OK. Now I'm going to hit Command J. Again, when you hit Command or Control J, you're duplicating whatever is selected. Turn off the background layer, and you can see there it is. It did a pretty good job. Now, there's a couple things we could fix here. We have this kind of flyaway hair here. We'll hit Command plus a couple times, hold in the space bar, go over here. And what we want to do here is get the spot healing brush. And with the spot healing brush, get a smaller one. We could come in here and kind of just get rid of this hair. Like this. Maybe this hair too, it's pretty obnoxious. And this hair here. Like this. If the spot healing brush isn't working, you get the one hold it behind it or below it. I'm sorry, the healing brush tool. With this tool, you'll get a sample area by holding in the Alt key. Sample there. And then you come in and kind of brush away these areas that are kind of looking bad. Like that. If that doesn't work, get the clone stamp tool. Hit the S key on your keyboard for the clone stamp tool. Oops, S key on the keyboard for clone stamp tool. Hit the left bracket key. Make it a little smaller. Hold the Option key or Alt key to get a sample area, and then you come in and just clone, stamp away. All right, so we fixed that up. Hit Command 0 to fit to screen. And now you could composite this by making sure that, you know, the part that is missing in the image is, you know, she's at the bottom of the image, so that is cut out. Or we could try something. Let's see how this works. I'll hit Command minus just to make it a bit smaller. Let's get the Polygonal Lasso tool, and let's start by clicking right here on her hip and going across to here, down to here, down to there, 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 maybe to about there, then come off the image here, off the image to about there, and then come up to there. And then let's hold in the Shift key and hit the Delete key. And when you do that, we have the Fill dialog box. Make sure that the contents are on Content Aware. Color adaptation is checked. Blending mode is normal, 100%, and do not check Preserve Transparency. And click OK and see what happens. Hit Command D or Control D to remove your selection. And you can see that it looks okay. I mean, I wouldn't call that fashion, 101 or anything, but it doesn't look that bad. And it would work if we wanted to take her out of here and put her in another image. So we'll hit Command 0 to fit to screen. And there it is. We clipped her out of that image. Just like that. So that is how you would go about selecting an object. In the case of this, all these images, we were selecting a person, and I showed you the most commonly used tools you would use to take that person out of the image. Just remember that refine hair button. If you try it and it doesn't work, which it won't work, what I found 80% of the time, and it doesn't work well, just hit Command or Control Z as in zebra to undo it, because there isn't an undo button. And also remember to check that checkbox over here, decontaminate colors. Sometimes that helps as well. So you could check that out and see if that helps improve the selection. And then once you do, if you just come back to regular Photoshop from the Select and Mask dialog box with a selection, hit Command or Control J to duplicate the selection, turn off the background layer, and you have your selection. So thank you, everyone who watches my videos. I really do appreciate it. I'll talk to you guys soon.